Yeah, I'm not Carl. Carl's usually here. He is on parental leave right now, which is funny because last year he just got back from parental leave, and but this year he has twins, or he's getting twins. So big applause for Carl because I think he's going to have a lot of work on his hands. But also on a more serious note, I really want to encourage people to go on parental leave. I personally regret that I haven't gone on leave when my son was born. So I think it's important that people in tech take advantage of this. Yeah, all right. So I guess you're stuck with me now. I am responsible for UX things. But speaking of stuck, if you click somewhere in Grafana and don't get any further, then you just reach out to me, david@grafana.com, or on Twitter. So what is Grafana? Grafana is currently on a journey, on a transition from dashboarding solution to observability platform. And I'll show a bit later what that looks like. And so first we're going to do a quick overview on what happened between the last PromCon a year ago to now. And the most obvious is the light theme that you see there, which personally I think is easier on the eyes. It's also more sellable to enterprise, which is nice. But I've had someone come up to me and say, David, can you make the light theme just a bit uglier? So because I really want people to stick to the dark one. So I'm not sure if we can accommodate this, but let's see. So on the back there, you also see the folders. That's also new. So you can group your dashboards by folders, and folders can also have permissions. So I think that's quite neat. And then also, lo and behold, people were probably using this now for quite a while, but that was also introduced in the last year, which is the instant query, which allows you to only query the last data point. And that is quite nice, especially if the queries are quite expensive and you only really want to see the last value. And it's also best displayed in a table panel. Also, speaking of table panels, we implemented another thing there. Basically, if you have multiple queries, you can still render them in a table, and it's trying to match the rows that have the same label value. So in this case, there's a breakdown by namespace, and all of these values will end up in the same, or the values or the responses that have the same namespace will end up in the same rows. And I think that's quite neat to compare for example, resources that you requested versus resources that are actually being used. This is what's being done there. So this is another fun one that was introduced this year, which is basically we heard of people saying we've been trying to convince our manager to use Prometheus, but if I click an array graph, if I click refresh really quickly, then these graphs always look slightly different. You can sort of see it, right? Basically, if I click 10 seconds later, the graph should just look the same, shifted by 10 seconds. So but then people were starting to explain, well, it's because when the step hits interpolation, things are just being calculated slightly differently. But then the manager or so said yeah, but it just it doesn't look the same, So so we had to do something, and we ended up aligning the request start and end with the step. So now every time you query, the parameters for start and end will be aligned, or will be aligned modulo the step. Anyway, so so hopefully it's more Prometheus is easier to sell now. So another cool thing, heat map panel. Is anyone using this already? Yep, cool. There was a little confusion in the beginning. What kind of queries do we use? Do we use the histogram query? Actually, no. You just need to use the rate query because we need to interpret all the LE values. And this is an example on how it's done. And then you just need to use format as heat map, and then you end up with a nice heat map. Yeah. So another cool thing we did this year, we had a summer intern project. Yeah, we're taking on summer interns if you're interested. This year was Tobias, so really grateful that he did this. Well, he was actually brought on board to do a really boring task, which was converting karma test to jest for 3 months. And we thought, well, maybe this is a bit too boring. So we gave him a real task, which was variable expansion in template variables. This sounds a bit complicated, but it's actually really cool. We also added a new built-in variable, which represents the range of the dashboard that you're seeing. And this allows you to do variables based on the dashboard range. And I'm going to show you how that's done. So basically, first look at the query field there. What we're doing there is we're doing a query for the top 3 jobs with the highest average go routine count in the time range that the dashboard shows. So that's pretty cool because that gives you a list of the jobs that are, I guess, go routine intensive. Just make sure to use refresh on time range change, because every time you look at a new dashboard time, or in the morning, right, your time will obviously have changed. But the good news then is you actually get this new list up there in the top left, and then you can use that variable in the query. So for that morning, you can use that big routine job variable to look at your requests or something. Cool. Another thing we added is the provisioning API, which basically allows you to define data sources and dashboard and files, and when they change, the definitions change, then you can basically just it just reloads, and all this is done, and you can immediately take advantage of this. This is quite nice because you can also then version control your data source definitions. And another cool thing that Tom, I think, added was that Grafana has no full ECI, so that means every change that goes into master will be built into a Docker image. And then if you use Grafana latest, you can test also the new stuff that I'm going to show later. Yeah, so this is also Carl's favorite section, Prometheus adoption. So let's go a bit back in history. These were the numbers for 2016. Basically, Grafana pings home once a day to report data source usage. And those were the numbers for 2016. And then 2017 was quite the bump. And then now the big question is, I guess, what happened this year? And yeah, it's pretty big. So we basically saw a triple in size over 1 year and 54,000 Prometheus data sources. I think it's quite good. I think we can have a little applause for that. All right, so on to the new stuff. So this is all a bit alpha, but I'm gonna walk you through this. So first a bit of I guess theory. We basically were motivated by people saying, the dashboard is great, and we also want to maybe take Grafana a bit off the wall and use a bit more for incident response. Or another thing was people were, I just want to quickly graph something, but I have to create a dashboard, and I have to create a panel, and I have to find the metrics entry field, and this was all super annoying. So that was, I guess, a big motivator. Then also, once you end up there, there's all these options. Click me. I don't really know what they're doing, but they're all basically in the way of the query field that is between these 2 red areas there. And then what people ended up doing anyway was just clicking this little sad icon there with that is also encircled, which basically just takes them to the standard Prometheus UI, and then they were out of Grafana. Okay, well, anyway, we wanted to change this and bring a lot more interactivity around queries to Grafana. And we iterated a bit over designs, and came up with this more query-centric view as opposed to Grafana or the classic Grafana dashboards, which are more about the visualizations. And yeah, so I can quickly show what that looks like. So if only I could change the tab now. All right, doesn't look like this. All right, it looks like this. All right, first things first, we have to change this. Light. Oh yeah, okay, that's better. So let me make that full screen. Did that do something? Oh, okay, here we go. So I guess I have to make that a bit bigger. Oh, wrong way. So, can people see this? Okay, so we start quickly by integrations there. Basically, if you have dashboards already, there's now a new field here in the panel menu, which is Explore, which leads you to this new Explore section. You can also get there by just clicking here, Explore, right? And then, okay, aha. It already tells me I can't connect to the local database, local Prometheus. That's fine, because we're just gonna start it. So, but I quite like to demo stuff on like the robust perception Prometheus. Thank you, Brian. Yeah. So what we have here is a completely new section around within Grafana, which focuses a lot about where the main focus is the queries themselves. And for Prometheus specifically, we want to make the easy things. Or the things that should be easy, we want to make those a bit more easier. So, for example, there's a little metrics explorer here, which groups the available metrics by prefix. So you can have your alert manager related metrics here, and then you just, I guess, click one, and it fills it out. So that's pretty cool. And then it's like, this is a time series that's monotonously increasing. Maybe we should apply a rate function, right? So then you just click this, and then boom, that works. Okay. So same thing for anything with buckets. So like, all right, there's a lot of buckets here. Maybe we should be histogramming this. Okay. So and then this like fills out what we hope is like a good default function call for your buckets, basically. But these are just meant as like quick starting points, because then you can start iterating through these queries here. And for example, you can break this down by, I guess, job. Well, it's only the alert manager job. Okay, no surprise. Anyway, yeah, so we have those. Another thing we added was history. So the last things you queried, it also tells you how often they've been queried in the last 24 hours. Also, like how long ago someone did this. So I think that's quite helpful. And then we also have function helpers that also tell you what the function does. Maybe there's another nice one. Hold winter is everyone's favorite. It's quite good to tell you what it does. Cool. Yeah. So what else do we have here? We also have, oh, that's a good one. Let's go back to coroutines again. So it always executes two queries, one instant query for the table down here, and one for the graph. So if you have a bigger screen, it's actually more easy to see all of this. You can also undo the graph thing, and then you just see the table. You want to iterate more quickly. And here, then we also have like click to filter. So if I just click on push gateway, this thing gets added. It's quite nice. And then this also works across. So this query doesn't make any sense, but I could click on this again, and then these are added to both. I think that's quite cool. So let's quickly change the data source to my local one, because there was a really cool feature added to Prometheus in the last couple of weeks by Max, which is the rules are now being exposed via API. So that's pretty cool, which means I can also get recording rules here. So I can do this, and then, all right, well, that worked. Hold on, I just need a graph query also. So, because then it says, oh, well, this is a recording rule. If you want to start debugging a query that also contains recording rules, you can expand the rules, and then like this does this for all the recording rules that are in your query, in case you've forgotten what you've written there a while ago. Yeah. So let's find a query that is coroutines again. Just common across multiple Prometheus instances, because now there's another cool thing, which is the split view, which allows you to basically compare different instances. So for example, my local one doesn't really do much on the left, but the robust perception one does a lot. So this is good also to compare def versus prod, for example, because it basically copies also the query. And I think we're almost through the demo. So last cool thing, we've got some sort of faceting here. So if I start, oh, actually, let's just go to this one here. So, oh, this took a bit. So it gives you some jobs. Oh, yeah, that looks like a lot of jobs with some sort of ID in there. Anyway, let's just choose this one. So now this basically helps you to find out what like actual queries are available by the alert manager job. And then I can look for a metric here. So let's just take this one. And then it totally zones in on the labels that are available based on the previous selectors, right? So you only end up with suggestions that make sense to everything that came before. Yeah, and I think that was the last thing. Yeah, oh, there's a great clear all button. Cool. Yeah. Oh, one more thing. Multiple queries in the same graph. So that's also cool. Go routines again. Cool. Doesn't make any sense compared to two, but we just did anyway. All right, so that was what we came up with so far. It's still super alpha, but it's behind a feature flag. If you paid attention to the CI slide, you can get this basically right now with just using the latest Docker image. We're thinking of releasing this in 6.0, maybe sooner. I got to talk to my boss basically about this. Yeah, so just to show you a bit more what we're working on. How are we doing for time? Yeah, okay. So yeah. Okay, yeah, let's just breeze through this. So the support for the completion needs a bit more work. There's some, Julia's been bugging me about this. Like, we just need completion for on and group left, but it's a bit more tricky because we need to like execute the queries around there. But we can do this. That's cool. Then the Prometheus exposition format has this helpline around what a query does, and when the write-ahead log, this is my understanding, when this write-ahead log stuff is implemented, we can possibly show these query metadata, or like time series? Yeah, time series metadata on also in the UI. I think that will be pretty cool. So then another cool thing that's coming is the multi-stat panel, and I've seen a couple of uses of the single stat panel, but this is really cool to just show a bunch of related ones in like a single fashion. And what you see there is this is like the same, or it's like there's multiple instances of the multi-stat panel in just like different modes of how things can be displayed. And yeah, it just allows you, just like in a single stat panel, allows you to set various thresholds so you get like quickly view on what's happening. Then dashboard management, big topic. We hear lots about it. And we're working a bit more about integrations with the mix-ins. See also Tom Wilkie's talk. Then we're thinking really hard on how to do basically how to save the changes back into Git if you manage your dashboards in Git. And then also really good or really useful for people who, like my friend Peter at Fastly, work a lot with or like have to migrate thousands of dashboards or like hundreds of dashboards, panel configs because, or like defaults for panel configs, because he just needs to click all the time like remove the fill from the stack graph, because who needs a fill? Anyway, so one more thing. Logging is coming to Grafana. This works, what you see there. Since I have 30 seconds, I just got the timeout. This works. So, cool thing here. We can basically use Prometheus style selectors to, Cassandra is always a fun one, to query logs or like query logs in our log aggregation system and then use, I guess garbage collection is always good, yeah, to like look through logs. So it's a really simplified log solution. Talk to Tom Wilkie or myself about this, and I think that is it. Yeah, so thanks for listening. Hi to Carl.
Thank you, David. Okay, we've got like 3 or 4 minutes for questions.
Yeah, great talk, and thanks for it. It's great to see the future of Grafana, how it will look like. My question is how you can tell which is recording rule, which is not in the explore mode, and how you can tell what's the query behind that rule.
So I guess like visually, you can identify them by the colons if people follow the like naming pattern, yeah. Right? So I think that's a pretty good thing to do. We could probably also do, because we get all the rules, we could do string matching to basically tell you, like this is a recording rule, and possibly also just put it in a little tooltip that you can just hover over to see what the underlying query is. Yeah.
Okay, next question. What is the source of those logs you have shown us?
So Grafana has secretly been developing a log aggregation system that you're going to hear a lot about in the future. Yeah.
Thank you.
Were you allowed to announce that today? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I was allowed to, but anyway, it's on the internet.
Thanks for the talk. The log aggregation you just presented.
Oh no! Last slide. Yeah.
Is this something comparable to Kibana?
So Kibana does a lot more, but we want to. Oh, I'm not allowed. My boss has spoken. Yeah.
There'll be a lightning talk about it. We just hear from the other corner of the room. Okay, more questions? There's one in the middle there. If you could pass that through.
Hi, good talk, by the way. I have a question regarding the organizations and multi-tenancy. You have multi-tenancy enabled, and I was curious about if you guys are planning on elaborating OAuth support in regards to multi-tenancy, since the support, I believe, is currently limited.
Mm-hmm. I think we should talk afterwards, because that is a very detailed topic, also based on basically what OAuth systems you rely on. So yeah, maybe we should do that.
So hi, I'm here. I've got a question about log aggregation. No, just kidding. So what I've noticed is that when you have a whole bunch of people making dashboards, they all come up with different like looks and feels, what they end up looking like.
Yeah.
So for example, I'm a graph purist. If I'm making a stack graph, I'm always using a fill. If I'm not making a stack graph, I'm not using a fill. Not everybody gets that rule. Are there any plans on maybe coming up with like a Grafana best practices document, just like we have a Prometheus best practices?
So yeah, couple of points to this question. First one is the defaults should really help with this because then you just have them in your provisioning API or wherever, and it's just like set company wide or like installation wide. Another thing is that we really don't want to prescribe how you do your things. So it's kind of hard to deliver best practices around this. But there's a second thing, or a third thing, which is around the mix-ins. Because where people basically can define dashboards on how they should look like for a certain service, so, for example. And then that decision has been made for you, basically, and you don't have to worry about it.
Thank you, David.